What is going on, YouTube? How are you guys all doing? Oh man, so Halloween's over with. Thanksgiving's around the corner. We're talking about gratitude. We're talking about everything amazing going on in the world. But we're also going to talk about retro game collections today. Now, I've been asked, I should say, a few times by many people, when is it enough? When do you stop collecting retro games? When do you stop collecting video games? When at some point is enough enough? So I can only go on personal experiences here, and like I've told many people before, it's not my say when you have too many games, or it's not my don't go by my advice too much. Just follow your heart, guys. That's really the big thing. But going by personal experience, I knew when I had too many games, besides the obvious, running out of room. I mean, that was a big one that kind of started off. I had to keep buying shelves. I had to keep buying. I had to upgrade basically to these black ones behind me just to start storing stuff because I had so much stuff. And then it was getting to the point too that I was having to build shelves on my walls and everything just to try and shove everything I could in there. And then then it started getting to the point too where I was having to buy totes to store stuff. And it was just it was overwhelming. I felt trapped. I've talked about that before. And I got collection paralysis. Basically, I did not know what I wanted to play anymore. I know Gaming Off the Grid recently did a video talking about this. They were more along the lines of trying to pinpoint it all on just digital games, but in actuality, it's physical as well. But a huge part of what I had was my backlog was literally a wall full of games, and when I came down to sit down to play, it was impossible to choose something. It was almost to the point where I'd put a game in for, I don't know, 20 minutes, and I'd have to choose by that point, do I want to stick with this game or do I want to try another one? And the biggest issue was having all those other games to choose from and just deciding, well, maybe I'll play that one, and running into the same issue. I'd played for about 20 minutes or so and decided, well, maybe I'm going to try a different one. So I just had this massive amount of games, this backlog that was virtually, like I said, wall size. And I'm not going to say that a digital library is not the same. It is. It's exactly it. I have a Super Nintendo with, classic with thousands of games on it. I have a Retro Pi with literally like 10,000 games. And it's just insane to think of, as an adult now, little Zach would have been blown away by how many games this was. But besides actual physical taking up space and not knowing what to play, enough just became, it just clicked one day. Game hunting started out to become as fun. Having all these games did not bring the same mental happiness that it once did. I've talked about game hunting dopamine spikes. I've talked about, buying all these games and how at one point, just being able to walk down here, sit down and kind of look around and being like, wow, I am satisfied. I started to lose that. I came down here and I just kind of looked around and I was just kind of like, I don't know what I want to say, felt ashamed, felt guilty, just didn't feel good about it anymore. And so that's why I tell a lot of people, obviously disclaimer right here, not any kind of licensed therapist, not any kind of licensed, person that can tell you or diagnose any kind of issue. I'm just a dude who's gone through a bunch of crap and talks about what all happened. But it was just it stopped being fun to have all those games. And I mean, the big thing maybe is maybe I just lost the passion, you know? I just it wasn't as like I said, it wasn't as fun, it wasn't as neat, it wasn't as cool to have all these games anymore. And I kind of transitioned out of that collector phase and more into the playing phase. And one big step to doing that was getting rid of all the fillers. And boy, was it hard. Mort's Garage recently posted on one of my community questions saying the exact same experience I had. In the beginning, it was hard to start selling stuff, but once you started, it became a lot easier. Once you become desensitized towards it, it becomes so much easier. The hard part is just figuring out how. And we'll talk about that in a later video, but that's not what this one's about today. But knowing when enough is enough is, like I said, when you just lose that edge. You know, you lose that passion for it. It's just not as fun anymore. And like when I said when I came to playing games, then yeah, I was more into gaming again. Especially when I upgraded to a PS5 and I had started playing more modern gaming. So that's kind of a big thing too, is I got more into modern games than anything. I still play retro games. I don't want people to assume that I just made the jump. But it was just the modern games were kind of more of a calling for me. I like, the quick loading times, the frequent checkpoints, the graphics, and it was something that moved forward. So no, I'm not saying I started collecting digitally either, because that was another implement that somebody was trying to say was, "Oh, you just made it digital. You don't want to do physical anymore." No, I still love physical media. Believe me, I actually went to my game store the other day and picked up. I've been having a hankering to play Resident Evil games, so I picked up Resident Evil 2 remake and Resident Evil 3 remake. But that's also too going into my Resident Evil collection because I'm actually kind of building just a certain franchises collection. And maybe that can move on to our next point is, enough was enough when I decided that I didn't want just the fillers anymore. I wanted to actually kind of focus a little bit more on a certain goal in mind. So couple huge franchises I love was Metal Gear Solid, and I've been wanting to play more of the Resident Evil games again. So I've been collecting Resident Evil games and Metal Gear Solid games. And then on top of that, RPGs from my youth. So I kind of focused more, pinpointed these goals, and I felt a lot better since then. But that doesn't mean that I'm still going out and buying games willy-nilly. There has to be rules behind it, which I've established in some other past videos. I can only buy a couple games at a time, and specifically only when I've beaten a few games. So that way I kind of keep moving on that backlog and I'm not just building it back up again. So when I picked up those games, they obviously went on the wall, but it felt so much better now having that bigger, you know, the shelf to actually fit them on, instead of being like, okay, I gotta teeter it over here, or man, I'm gonna have to invest in some more wood and L brackets so I can start building more shelves. And yeah, it was a lot better feeling to come home, drop those two games off on the shelf, and know that I'm gonna play them soon. And it's just been it's more feels better for me that way than before. So moving in now on almost the 10-minute mark, and kind of in closing, having a retro game collection, video game collection, is fun. For some people, they start losing that passion for it, which is kind of what came over me. It's not to say that down the road it's not going to come back, but at that time of my life, it was just not this didn't make sense anymore. It's kind of the big thing. I was able to trade off, sell a bunch of it, use the money for other things. I took my kids to a college football game, which they loved, so I made memories with them. I have credit and stuff stored away now for something down the road that I would actually enjoy. I've actually been looking for a Xbox Series X, and because I want to play Starfield, I'm a big Bethesda fan, and I know that a lot of games down the road are going to be coming out for the Series X that I can only play on there. So instead of, pulling out the credit card, working a bunch of extra hours, I just use some of my old stuff to pay for some of the new stuff. But I just want to know what you guys think about this in the comments below too. Have you dabbled in this? Have you experienced this where you walked into the game room one day and just decided that this was not where you wanted to be anymore? This was not something that was making more sense to you, that you almost felt like you had to have the retro game collection or video game collection out of out of having to have it now because you've already started collecting and now it just feels right. It doesn't feel right, but it feels like you have to do it. And also, if you sold any of your huge portion of your collection in the past, and just comment your experiences so that other people out there, if they are actually struggling with that same dilemma, that they can too see that maybe there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe that, so other people have experienced the exact same experiences they have and what they've done to overcome it, because that's how we can help each other. So, with that being said, guys, I hope you have a great weekend. I know this is going to be a Sunday video. I'm not usually a Sunday video guy, but I woke up this morning early before work and decided to do this. And I just love having these talks with you guys. So, I hope you guys have a great week. And Thanksgiving's around the corner, guys. Make sure you're doing your gratitude speech every day. Say something you're thankful for. I don't care if you have to comment down in a random video. Just say, I'm thankful for this. And do it for this video if you want to. Otherwise, social media. I know sometimes people don't like to use social media, but shout some people out. Tell them you're thankful for them. So,